The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every week by sharing the stories and advice from those who are rocking it on the other side. This week, we have on Robyn Frost. Robyn is a senior art director at Pereira O'Dell, also known as POD, we'll call it. In early 2019, she moved 4,000 miles from London to America to make the best work of her life, work that's relevant, thoughtful, and smart. And in her career, she has won numerous awards because of this. Work for Heineken, Google, EE, Pop Chips, Canon, RX Bar, Yoplait, Bud Light, GE, Clorox, Michelob Ultra, Jack Daniels, and more. She's won Cannes Lions, D&ADs, Webbies, and plenty more. So you will learn a lot from Robyn. We discuss how she went to portfolio school and how she created a non-traditional portfolio, then got noticed via Twitter and moved across the globe to make great advertising. She also advises those looking to travel or to move across the globe for work and how to approach the process at a very, very, very high level. But hey, if you connect with us on Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod, all one word, give us a follow, and I will be happy to connect you with Robyn if you have further questions about her story or break-in advice. Now, on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Robyn Frost, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
What's new? We're happy to talk with you about advertising, all things advertising. Does that sound fun?
Yeah. Sounds great. Excited.
And you've been on maybe one or two other advertising centered podcasts. Is that correct?
Yes, a while ago. I did the D&AD New Blood podcast a few years ago.
Well, we just started our own award show for aspiring advertisers. We can allude to that. But this is not about me and breaking entering. This is about you because you are a senior art director at Pereira O'Dell. Did I say that? Did I pronounce agency correctly?
Yes, but you can call it POD if it's a bit of a mouthful for you.
Pereira O'Dell. I'll spell it out for
Pereira
people.
O'Dell.
PEREIRAODELL. Pereira O'Dell. It's a great shop.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that shop. We'll talk about what it means to be a senior art director at Pereira O'Dell, or POD for short. Is that cool? Let's take it from the top there. Talk about you and your role in the agency, wherever you want to pick and choose from. Let's hear it.
Cool. Yeah. So I've been at POD since the beginning of October. It's amazing. I'm based out of their West Coast office, but the great thing about POD is you get to move around quite a lot. So I also work on clients at their New York office. I'm currently working on Mini. I'm working on Yellowtail, just Third Bank, a bunch of new business stuff. It's great. Honestly, the opportunities are really cool. Everyone's very chilled. And the bar is super high.
Yellowtail wine.
Yes.
That's the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a copywriter partner?
Yes. So my partner is Henry Fernanda. We've worked together since 2016. So we met at ad school, and then made the move over from London to the US together, which was really cool. Ooh. So our whole ad careers together, which is great.
We'll talk about that. We'll definitely talk about that. But what ad school was it?
We were at School of Communication Arts in London. So the original SCA, as it's known, was a couple decades earlier, and then it was brought back to life. So we were at the second iteration of it. It's brilliant. Yeah.
All right. But back to Pereira O'Dell. So where are the main offices at? So you're not in San Francisco.
No, I work remote from Chicago.
That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Yeah. Best to see.
How long have you been here?
4 years. So I moved over to join FCB Chicago at the beginning of 2019. So that was my big London to America move. I've stayed here since.
And you stayed. And you have the option to work in the San Francisco office, is that correct?
Yes. I mean, most people work remote. The
Mhm.
offices are open, but you know, most people work from home, which is great. And
But you
they're
don't
very easy
feel
about it.
like you don't wanna get over there? Escape the cold right now?
Potentially, right now, yes. The winters are rough. The winters are brutal.
Mhm.
But I moved in the polar vortex and no winter has been as bad since.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I personally miss working in an office, but we've got a really great setup here in Chicago. My fiance and I and our crazy dog. So we're staying here for now.
Okay. That's that's awesome. And how does the weather compare to London? Like winter?
Uh, Winters are a lot more brutal, but there's less rain here, which is quite nice. Sunnier days. It's just a lot of rain you know, and gloom in London, but I do miss it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's some work that you can talk about that you're really proud of at Pereira O'Dell that you've done, and you've only been there, what, 6 months now?
Just coming up to 4, so
Oh,
I've not
not even.
produced anything yet, but
Okay.
I can't
Okay,
really
then
talk about anything.
what's the biggest noticeable change in culture, creativity,
Mm,
procedures that you've seen in your first 4 months at POD that's different from your last agency or last agencies?
mm. That's a good question. It feels very flat in terms of leadership, and there's really solid leadership there, and it is structured. But your access to people at the top is, it's very clean. You can chat to the CCO Rob, send him ideas, get on a call with him, which I didn't experience really previously. Some agencies, I mean, it really depends on who your CCO is, but everyone is so laid back. Everyone is super talented and super friendly, and the culture just feels great. I think it's really important at agencies to feel like you can fire off ideas to your CD or send something to your CCO and ask if they want to chat about it. Um, yeah,
I think that's so important, like, for people out there, a lot of people chase the name of the agency.
for sure.
And names stay the same, but the people move all the time and clients move around. So it's just
Hmm.
one of those constant reminders. Those are evergreen advice pieces that we hit on. Like, make sure you enjoy your leadership, your manager. And I
Yeah.
need that. I need a nice manager personally. I get my feelings hurt. I'm a little sensitive sometimes.
Hmm.
And uh, I like the accessibility more so. We
Yeah.
specialize in communications. And if a manager of mine is distant or hard to reach or is makes me go through layers of bureaucracy, which I've seen
Hmm.
that in some of my past jobs, I got to jet if that's the case.
Yeah. I would agree. I think one of the reasons that we really gravitated to POD was its size. It's a super successful agency. It's been around for I think 15 years now, if I'm getting that right. But they've not got a ton of people to the point that it's, impossible to know everyone's names or, have that access with creative leadership that is so crucial. I've worked at agencies where there are 250, 300 creatives in the
Oh my god.
department, which is, it's cool for some people. I'm a people person, so I liked being in the office around all those people. But
Yep.
in
Yep.
terms of creative opportunity, I prefer a smaller, shop in terms of headcount. That's
And
for sure.
what are your thoughts then? Like, and I know I'm jumping around. I'm not staying organized, but while we're here,
Sure.
if you were, like, just starting out your career again, would you follow the I don't even I would have to look at your LinkedIn, but would you follow
Mm.
that cookie cutter, like, that trajectory of you graduate, maybe a portfolio school, and then you go large agency and then narrow down? Do you whittle down as you get, like, further in your career? Do you think that that's what playing it pretty safe? I think a lot of people do that. Do you
Mm.
recommend that?
I would actually go the opposite. And that's what I did. I started out at a tiny agency in terms of headcount, but very well known in London, 18 Feet and Rising, now known as
Okay.
And Rising. I think there were 6 of us in the creative department, which was fantastic. I mean, so you're standing in a review with the ECD, creative partner, creative directors, and then a couple teams.
Wow.
And for exposure, that's fantastic. And that's not just them knowing you as a creative and hearing your ideas and how you can articulate those. It's, you knowing what else is going on and what the standard is from those other creatives and, directly what the expectations are.
What's the name value of that agency in London though? Is it pretty well known or
Yeah,
you just
18 feet. Yeah, 18 feet's well known. They're now and rising. They went through a bit of a shift and a
okay?
rebrand in terms of their identity. Um, it was great. We interned there for 2 months, and then we moved on to Poke London, which I think had just been acquired by Publicis at the time, but it had
Okay.
retained that independent spirit with working. Again, a kind of small to mid-sized agency. As a junior, it's great being in an environment like that. So many opportunities.
If you have, I believe like if you have good client work and you have good opportunities
Mm,
within the shop, it doesn't really matter what the size is. And I can see your argument, starting smaller, if there's good clients and good opportunities, that could be really, really beneficial.
yeah, absolutely. I think some people can really thrive in those large environments. And when you're starting out, I think it's so important to just get in somewhere and start making. Don't be too
Yes.
choosy about where you go. Really, you graduate and you should just be aiming to get a job.
Yeah.
And I think you should, look and try and find places whose work you really like, work you'd like to be making, you aspire to make, people you'd like to work with who inspire you. But ultimately you can learn from everyone and you will learn
Mhm.
something valuable wherever you are. Um, so I think it's also just trial and error. Go to a big shop and if you don't like it, go to a smaller one.
I mean,
Vice
listen,
versa.
if you have a choice, you're ahead of the game. like,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
you must have a pretty good portfolio. The market has to be right. Timing is right. If you
Mm,
strategically look at who's winning new business,
yes.
that might help your chances as well. But when you're graduating or wherever you're at right now, it's not easy to get a job either way. So people probably don't have the opportunity to be like, all right, I have three options on the table here. It's not that common, right? Your
Mm,
first job chooses you a lot of the times, and that's perfectly fine.
absolutely.
If you happen to go big, you go big, make the best of it, and then you
Yeah.
can work your way around. I think that's great. I mean, you need it. We all just, it's just a job at the end of the day. You gotta get the paycheck
Totally.
and enjoy it as well, and you can move around later.
Hmm. I think that's one of the best things about working in advertising is you're not expected to stay at a job for 10 plus years. If you'd like to, that's fantastic. I know some people who have been in their jobs, since they started and they're going on 8, 9 years. Good for them. But actually, if you'd like to move around every couple of years, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Um, when did you know, like, for this recent switch,
Mm,
when did you know it was time to leave? And I believe that was Shy Day.
yes. So we've been at Shire for 2 years and we joined Shire mid-pandemic after leaving FCB Chicago. Um, And I think we'd got to the point where Shire, first and foremost, was a fantastic experience and we loved everyone that we worked with. I think creatively, we were feeling like we wanted more variety in the creative opportunities, more clients, more differentiation between those clients. And there was something very appealing about working for an agency on a coast that we'd not worked on before. Um, you move from New York to the West Coast and you get clients like Apple and Adobe, and that was very, very appealing to us.
You caught me off guard there because I was listening. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I thought it was like LA, but you were like
Hmm.
you were working at the New York office. You were, yeah, you were at the New York office, correct?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So we were working at Shire New York, and then bopped over to POD, San Francisco.
Ah, gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. I want to pause and
Hmm.
I want to ask you this question now. I want to bring it all back because I want to get back on the trajectory of my usual episode, or we'll just be all over the place. So bear with
Sounds
me
good.
as I'm transitioning here. I want to ask you a question now. So we know a little bit about what your current role and POD and a little bit. We already got some advice, but I want to stop and I want to ask you: when was the moment? When was the day? When did you say to yourself, "I want to create ads for a living"?
Yeah. So I was interning, I think it was mid 2015. I was interning at a design studio in London called Carter One, and they are very well known for their beautiful packaging design. And I was there as a design intern. I'd taken a year out from art school, my graphic design degree, to work in industry, and I got myself an internship there. And they asked me to write some copy for some yogurt packaging and then create a couple posters for it. So I got to both design the posters and write the copy for them and write the copy for the packaging. And it was in that moment that I went, this is really cool. And they're asking me to do both of these things, which is interesting. I'd never really written in that sense before. I was used to writing essays for university, which I really hated. School wasn't my thing. And I got to write this copy, design these posters, and I went, this is really cool. And I still kind of hadn't twigged like, oh, this advertising could be a career for me. So I went back to my university course and I said to my tutor, hey, I think I might want to go to advertising school or work at an agency. What does that look like? She went, you have to go to School of Communication Arts. It's fantastic. It's one of the most interesting advertising portfolio schools out there.
Okay.
And I went to visit it when I was applying, and it was in an old church in Brixton in London in the crypt. And it used to have a nightclub in it called Mass. I walked in and it was all just kind of weird and interesting and unusual. It didn't feel like a school. And I really liked that setup and I really liked the approach. And I think from there I went, yeah, this is something I have to do.
1 or 2 years program?
1 year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great. It was a really quick turn.
So you graduated and with undergrad or university, and then you did this 1 year portfolio school program full time. Were you
Correct.
working on the side at all, interning at all?
Full time. It felt like a full time job. The dean of the school had us refer to ourselves as out of work creatives. So it was treated like it was an ad agency, really. And you worked long hours from first thing in the morning to very late at night, through the night.
Yeah.
And you worked on live briefs for actual clients and agencies, which I really, really loved about the school.
Actual briefs from agencies.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
local agencies in London would just
Yeah.
give you guys this work.
Yeah. So
And they would
the
just dig in
school,
and be like, thanks. See ya.
I mean, yeah. And it was a really cool opportunity. Some of them were they were called live briefs for these agencies. They might have been old briefs that have been floating around or briefs
Okay.
that were created for us. It wasn't like, hey, we've got this beer client, give us some ideas. But every week we did actually,
Why not?
that would have been cool. But yeah. So that's really how it happened.
Okay. And then what did your portfolio look like? How many campaigns by
Mm.
the end of it that you were finalized in your book for the time?
Well, we got to the end of the course and we decided we didn't want to have a conventional portfolio full of print ads.
Of course.
People who came to the school kind of said, we would expect to see a bunch of print ads and maybe a couple activations or digital ideas if you have time. But whenever Henry and I were working on projects, we found that the extra stuff, if we have extra time in inverted commas, was often more interesting to us than the print stuff. So we graduated without any print in our book. And we had a bunch of activations. We did D&AD New Blood projects. We did Cannes Future Lions, entered all the competitions. And I think that really set us apart because we opened on an activation.
Did you win? You win anything?
Yeah, we won at D&AD New Blood, which was great.
Nice.
An
And you
awesome
would have
experience,
won, I'm sure you would have won a Crowbar award. Like that Breaking and Entering is just launched. Greg Hahn is our first judge.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it doesn't
That's
doesn't
great.
get much better than that.
No, brilliant.
Yeah. So, okay. So you opened with activations rather than
Yes.
your traditional print ads. That
Mhm.
seems like a no-no for most traditional portfolio schools. Did you have some
Totally.
flack? Were you just like, we're going to do this? I don't care what anybody says. What was that like?
The latter. And I remember the dean of the school sat with Andy Sandoz, who probably, I'm sure, wouldn't mind us saying this, who was a regular visiting mentor to the school. And I think at the time he was D&AD president, or it was the following year that he was D&AD president. And I remember him sitting with the dean of the school and they basically argued over what we should put in our book. And I'm sure Mark, the dean, wouldn't mind me saying this either. And Mark said, no, but you really should have some print in there. This is what agencies are going to expect. And Andy was like, no, you can absolutely lead with activations. You can absolutely have cool digital stuff in there. You can totally put a stunt in your book.
Yeah.
And I think the most interesting books out there aren't ones that go, oh, what would, this agency like to see, or what would they expect? It's, who am I as a creative? What do I like making? What do I want to make at an agency?
Yeah.
Does it have to be, it doesn't have to be a script. Absolutely doesn't have to be a piece of print if you don't want to put any print in there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Lead with what you want to get hired for, right?
Absolutely. And I don't think you have to pay, too much attention to what those agencies are doing. I think it's about being able to articulate an idea in an interesting way rather than, oh, will this appeal to this direct person? I think when you're trying to people please in your book, you're going to make stuff that doesn't feel true to who you are as a creative. If you make stuff that you want to make and you think is the answer to a brief, that's right. That's it.
There you go. I like that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, so that took a year
Yeah.
and you won some awards, and then I'm sure somebody hired you. Where
Yes.
was that what's that break-in story then?
Well, we interned at 18 Feet and Rising, and then we got a call from FCB Chicago in our first 2 weeks
How
of
did
that
FCB
internship.
Chicago find how do they call? They saw you in some award shows, they saw that you might have had some work go viral, like, how did they notice you?
Funny story. I met Liz Taylor, who is now global
Yeah.
CCO of Ogilvy. At the time, she was CCO of FCB Chicago, and we met each other on Twitter. And I'd written an article that she happened to see, and we chatted a little, but nothing extensive, and sort of stayed in touch. And I tweeted our site once our portfolio site. And the next day got an email from her, then recruiter saying, hey, have you got any interest in FCB Chicago?
So Twitter got you the job.
Twitter got me the job, and Twitter's got me most of my jobs.
I think I have a friend, an insider, just knows the industry really well. I probably should have him on.
Mm,
And I was like, "What should I ask Robyn?" And he goes, "I don't really know her, but, I know her from Twitter,
interesting.
and, like, I know
Curious
her
to know who
work
this
from
insider is.
Twitter." I can't disclose that. That's my insider.
Okay.
Um, yeah, no, I remember I was
Mm,
on Twitter, and then TikTok came out, and now I can't that's my
I know.
I can't not.
Same.
Like,
I
my Twitter
know.
time has gone down, and I don't know, like, Elon stuff aside, like, just TikTok has taken over. Like,
Same.
so
Absolutely same.
have you have you been, like, less on Twitter, I guess?
I have been sharing less on Twitter in general. I think Twitter has changed.
Yeah.
And TikTok, I think, is just more interesting now, honestly. I don't know what's happened with, with the whole Elon thing. Like, even my feed has changed, and I'm getting people who are speaking as if they're on LinkedIn and they're talking about the startups and,
Oh,
you know,
those, like, threads, those long
oh,
threads
it's
that I've seen?
exhausting. I've muted all the different elements of a
I'm
thread. Like,
I
on.
did like the advertising Twitter, though, like, you can get
I
into that,
know.
and I used to talk
I
about
know.
that a lot on this show, and
Yeah.
it's totally changed. So,
Hmm.
like, you
Completely
could
agree.
follow these certain people, like yourself, and then who you follow and what you like, and then you follow them. I've just gotten
Yeah.
off that, like, it can like,
I
almost
know.
completely, sadly. So,
Ad Twitter still exists, but Ad Twitter was really big. It kind of reached its peak in, I'd say, 2019, 2020.
yeah,
That was the best of it.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
people have dispersed. People are not so interested in Twitter anymore. And I think that's absolutely fair enough.
yeah,
And as you say, we're all spending more time on other things like TikTok.
mhm.
TikTok's
And
great.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn's the
Hmm.
bread and butter for me. I'm always going
Yeah.
there, just all the time scrolling on my
Yeah.
computer, my desktop. While I'm at work, I have a tab of LinkedIn always open just for
Yeah.
my job. Yeah.
Hmm. It's great.
Okay, back to you though. So Liz Taylor, who I
Yes,
would like you to connect me with. Um,
I will.
Thank you.
happy,
We'll,
happy
we'll talk.
to.
We'll talk. So she called you up, had a recruiter call you after Twitter. So it's just another
Yeah.
like, what's the lesson there? What do we need to know?
I think, mm, how can I articulate this? You never know who's watching or
Mm,
reading, in good ways and bad.
yeah.
So think about how you're putting yourself out there. when I wrote that article and when I was really on Twitter, I wasn't using it as a, oh, maybe I can talk about stuff and someone will see it and give me a job. It
Yeah.
really wasn't like that. And I never, you know, saw that connection with her in that way. So I really was quite surprised when I got that email from her recruiter, and here we are. Um, but I think everyone always says, build your network, but I think you have to also be quite intentional about it and go to the right places. And Twitter is really underestimated and really underutilized in that sense. There are so many creative leaders and creative directors and people you can chat with direct on Twitter. You don't have to email their personal assistant or anyone to set up a call with them.
Yeah.
Just get in touch and ask for what you want.
Hmm. That's how I got Rob Schwartz on. Rob's,
Brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah.
the chairman for TBWA New York
hmm
group. One of
Rob
my
hired me at Shire through Twitter.
boom.
I messaged him on Twitter and said, "Hey, Rob, I'd love to work for you. Are you
Yeah,
hiring right now?" And he went, "Yeah, let me go check." And he went, "Here we go. It
it's
works."
incredible. It
Yeah.
does work. Yeah, and if
hmm
you're intentional and you're posting stuff consistently that's on your brand or is providing value or you think is
hmm
fun and is fun to you and is true to you and you're doing that consistently, that's why I preach a lot about like content and getting yourself out there networking wise.
Mm,
Find whatever it is and just be consistent about it. I don't know, maybe
agreed.
for you is tweeting and you were good at
Yeah.
that or sharing work or just engaging on Twitter. That counts too. That's networking. That's a thing.
Absolutely. Share your work on Twitter, see what other people are doing. Agencies will always post their stuff. Follow people at agencies that you would like to work at and just see what they're talking about, see what they're interested in. That sounds
Yeah.
really creepy, but it's not. Um, you can always read a different perspective as well, which I think is great.
And I think copywriters need to be on Twitter still. I
Yeah.
think that you can really flex there, but even being an art
hmm
director and yourself, you're saying sharing your work, the visual aspect of it too,
Yeah,
and that works for you as well.
absolutely. I mean, the best and worst thing about Twitter is that anyone can see what you've tweeted. So you'll always get an opinion, which is great. It's like being in the advertising industry. Someone is always going to say they love what you've done. Someone will always say, I really hate this. And that's okay.
What has been the most viral thing that you've posted? Do you have anything
The most
that's
viral
more
thing.
controversial or most engaged?
Um, what did I tweet recently? Let me see. I've got something pinned. I tweeted something back in August, which was project manager. Hey, creatives. Oh no. I think that ended up in a end of year roundup or something from Wonderhood Studios in London, which is an agency I love. I was like, cool.
There you
Thanks for
go.
featuring that in one of your, you know, in your end of year roundup.
There you go.
So, but it's always the things that you don't expect to
Mhm.
get any traction. I think that's the thing is if you're trying, you can see that with comedians who consistently put jokes out there, and Twitter's a fantastic place for testing, comedy and comedic writing and all that sort of good stuff. If you're a writer, but often it's the stuff that you don't expect to get traction that does. So bear
Yeah,
that in mind.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Um, so you went from London to Chicago. How does that work?
It's a very lengthy process,
Yes.
usually. The more junior you are, I think the longer perhaps the process. There are no secrets, there are no tips, and there are no real tricks to it, honestly. It's a very linear process and it's all spelled out on the USCIS website. So I know there are lots of people out there who are interested in working abroad. Lots of, Europeans who are interested in working in the US, and vice versa. But I can speak to the first part. You essentially have to have a job offer from a company in the US and they have to agree to sponsor your visa. So typically you'd come on an O1 visa if you don't already work for the company. They sponsor that. It's 3 years. And then you have to build your case. So they will have
This is
their
the
lawyers
craziest.
do that.
The
hmm
building of the case and like defending
Yeah.
like that because the O1
Yeah.
and Buchin he just got done with this process and
Great.
like don't you have to like show like
hmm
winning awards is so important and like
Yep.
getting stuff
hmm
published and get your name like basically being PR professional for yourself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it might be stuff that you've never had to think about before. I never before had thought about how to PR myself. And you have to be quite intentional about it. But also, if that stuff isn't there and if you don't have projects that haven't got PR, wait until you have made some stuff that has got PR on it, because you don't want to apply and maybe not get it, or you have to have a really, really strong case, and the lawyers will help you build it. But it's a grueling, but really, I found it a really exciting process.
Well, they also don't put like like you if you hit 10 published articles and 3 awards
Mhm.
for advertising, that's good and you passed. Like they keep it open, like you just have to get as much as you can?
Uh, I was advised to gather lots of stuff that my lawyers would then build into a case.
Right.
So it's, what do you have? And, send us any articles that, are about you or your work. Please send us examples of your work that have featured in press. What awards have you won? And can you, get emails from those awarding bodies to certify that you've won those and talk about the significance of them?
Yes, and that's so I wish, like, just to be like, "Alright, prove yourself, like, show us what you have."
Hmm.
That to me
Yeah.
stresses me out, and I'm not even going through that process. That's why literally, that's one of the big reasons why we started the Crowbar Awards,
Yeah. That's
and to help
brilliant.
people do like, from talking with Buchin, and I know there's,
Hmm.
like, the Young Shits Awards does this too.
Yeah.
We wanted to get away from having young in the title
Mm.
specifically
Hmm.
because it makes you look it sounds better if it doesn't have young in it, and, like,
That's fair
they
enough.
see that. So we
Yeah.
literally just thought about, how can we make this better? And,
Yeah.
yeah, like, that was a huge part of it, thinking about people that need a break in and,
Hmm.
or that are international.
I think that's brilliant. And awards are always great to enter, whether you're looking to move abroad or not.
Right.
Awards can really help your career. And I would suggest to everyone who is trying to get into the industry, just
Mhm.
enter all of the awards. Just enter all of them. Even if you don't win, they're fantastic experiences for you to learn from the judges or meet. I know with Young Shits, you get to,
Mhm.
I think if you win, you get to meet the judge who was,
Yeah,
that week or
yeah.
that brief, for example.
Ours, you come on the podcast and you meet that judge too, so you get to talk about
That's
your work in public.
fantastic.
So it's like a
Really
double
respect
you get
that.
written up, and then you get
Yeah.
on the pod. Sorry.
It's brilliant.
Thanks.
Yeah, really respect that.
So can people reach out to you? I know this is a pretty complicated, like,
Mm,
any other high level learnings? I know this is, like, really granular. There's lawyers out there,
mm.
but, like, can they reach out to you for advice if they're in this situation? Like, what else do you have to say about the
And I guess I would just reiterate that there are no tricks for it. It's
yeah,
not a process where there's a back door that you can try and get through. It really is, you are dealing with immigration and USCIS, and it's really about following their guidelines and their process. And on their website, they spell out all of the things that you need, so it's crystal
yeah,
clear. And then
yeah,
it's on you. It really is how much you put into the process as well. An agency can offer you a job and say, this is what you need to do to get it. But, and you can immerse yourself in that experience. I've got friends who went through it a year ago. They're now at Droga, New York. Um,
nice.
and they went through it, and it's a really rigorous, tiring process to go through, but it's something you really want to do. Throw yourself into it, go for it. And I'm always happy to chat. If anyone's going through it, I know it can be quite tiring and quite draining.
Yeah.
Um, and if anyone is thinking about it, I'm
Any
happy to chat with
resources
them.
that come off, like, top of your mind, like, that you looked up? Maybe it was like a mentor, or, is there a lawyer service that you like? Or I don't know, anything that really comes like, "This really saved my."
I don't. I don't think you don't really get a choice with who your lawyer is.
Okay,
The agency will have their lawyers. I was lucky; the lawyers that FCB had were absolutely fantastic. I then renewed my O1 visa a second time and attached it to myself instead of an agency, which means
cool.
that I'm not sponsored by an agency. I can make my own moves, and an agency does not control my movements, which I would highly recommend. I would recommend that if that's something that you're interested in, you have a good chunk of cash to hand, which I know is a privilege. Savings account is a privilege. I think I spent close to 10,000 renewing my visa. And I worked with Layhack and Philippa, in New York, and they are fantastic lawyers focused on immigration in the arts. So they know their stuff.
Interesting.
Mm.
And now you're all done, right?
Now I'm all done. I mean, it's still a 3-year visa, so you have to keep going through the process if you'd
How
like to
many
stay.
times? Is that never ending?
You can keep going. I mean, unless you want to apply for a green card, I haven't explored that process, but
That's what I was going to
people
ask.
can do
Isn't
that.
that the next
Yeah.
step then? And then it's like 10 years?
I think it might be 10 years. I'd have to double check it. Potentially. I mean, it depends where you want to go. The beauty of being on a 3-year visa is you can, keep applying to renew it. It's never a guarantee that it will be approved. You have to do the application process all over again.
And
Equally,
you
you can
can't
go,
reuse any of like their past stuff in the past 3 years? Like,
I think it might be submitted. So I think you can use it, but you have to come with fresh stuff. You can submit your old applications that were approved, but you have to come with new
the
evidence.
achievements,
Depends.
the achievements I'm
Yeah.
asking. Like you have to, so every
Hmm.
3 years you have to, you're gathering
Yes.
new achievements, new press, new awards for
Hmm.
advertising specifically. Maybe it's
Yeah.
your own, I don't know, maybe it's your own articles. Maybe
Hmm.
like, I don't know what that is. I'm not the expert, but
Yeah.
wow. So it's never ending. Like every 3 years you're like thinking
Never
about,
ending.
that's why you need to be at a good shop. You need to be doing good work. It's important.
Yes.
And,
Very important
and
because,
freelancing
oh,
maybe on the side too.
yes, I think if you're sponsored by an agency, you can't freelance on the side. There
Makes
are
sense.
sort of restrictions, but yes, if you're on your self-sponsored visa, then absolutely. I think it's really the key is just proving your significance of what you're doing. That's
Sure.
ultimately what they are interested in. Is this significant? What is this contributing to our country, our society? What are you making? Are you just here for a good time in which, you don't live here, you work here. That's how they see it. So you have to keep doing a great job.
And I want
No
to preface,
pressure.
I want to preface that we're not lawyers,
No,
um,
absolutely not.
but you've done this, you've been doing this, so
Yeah.
um, definitely worth diving into more with you. Or
Hmm.
um, Hatem was really helpful too. I remember his episode. It was
Yeah.
like he was at Mischief. He still might be there. Um, so reaching on the side probably will be helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Gotcha. So, and that takes you to FCB. That was your break-in.
Hmm.
Everything was great there, and you're an art director. And what'd you work on? What's the best piece of work you've had? Like, what are you most proud of? That's like, yeah, something sold that you've made in your
Mm.
career in advertising.
The thing I'm most proud of, I didn't make in America. And that's, I still feel the same. I still feel that the work I made in London, I prefer. And I think that might be um, to do with British advertising versus American advertising.
So,
It's very different in terms of style.
what was it?
So I made a piece for EE, which is an English version, I guess, of Verizon, the
Okay.
equivalent of that. And we created an AI stylist. And at the time, it was for the BAFTA Awards, which is a huge awards show in England, held in London at the Royal Albert Hall. And EE wanted to show off their like super fast 4G, whatever. And we thought, okay, what's the biggest draw for, people coming to the event? It's red carpet fashion. And we looked at, I would say it sounds strange, but it will make sense. We looked at human hosts and stylists who could see celebrity fashion, A-list fashion on the red carpet, and then tell people at home how to buy it. And we thought that's just not possible by a human to interview these people and at the same time find affordable dupes for people to buy at home while they're watching TV.
Nice.
So we went, AI is really interesting. How can we use AI to, you take a picture of someone's outfit, run it through your AI, that's all I'm going to say, and then it can spit out a dupe
Yeah.
for someone at home via a chatbot. And I think all projects that use tech like that can and will date. I'm sure that project already looks dated. If it were being done in 2023, it would be done very differently. and I would make changes. But I'm really proud of how, yeah, I think the concept still stands. And I'm really proud of how Henry and I were juniors at that point, working with a creative director. It was literally the three of us, plus, creative technologist and, other people chipping in. But we really had ownership over that. And how can we write a whole chatbot and bring it to life? And it was a big live event. And we're working with tech we've never worked with before. It was the most wonderful experience.
It worked?
It worked. We had a slight blip because we had a hologram appear as the stylist on the red carpet. And as you can imagine, nothing ever is perfect. We had a blip with that, but it worked great. And I'm really proud of what we achieved. I'm just proud of what we learned from it as well. It was the most amazing learning experience. We worked with fantastic, smart people and made something that I think, we learned a lot from as creatives.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that you thought about today before coming on the show that you want to get out to the listeners out there, breaking in advertising? Anything else?
I'll have to think back to like my list of things.
You have that great mentor list.
The mentor list. The mentor list, I would encourage anyone looking for mentorship to, reach, into their circle of people, but then a bit further as well, and perhaps speak to people that they may not have first thought of. You can find really valuable, fantastic advice and guidance from people who may not have the exact same job title as you. Just because I'm an art director doesn't mean I have to go and speak to another art director. I could learn so much from a creative technologist. I could have a mentor who is a strategy director. So the mentor list we created, Zoe and I created, and it's just a Google document. And it's, please can people put their information in? I think they can still put their information in. And it's just a list of people's names, experience, job titles, and contact information. So if you need a mentor, go to that list.
We've gotten a couple guests from that list. So
mm-hmm.
we have a podcast, an interview podcast. Is also
brilliant.
There you go.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I have no further questions, Robyn, and you've been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time. How can people reach out to you if they have any further questions for you?
They can email me. They can message me on LinkedIn or, Twitter, Instagram. Very happy to chat to anyone, anytime, help how we can.
Okay. Then LinkedIn it is, because that's the easiest for me to put down. Then
great.
Also if people need a bump and let me know, if you're busy, they can reach out to me as well. And I can maybe make the connection myself. If you're following us on Instagram and LinkedIn, of course. No freebies here. Awesome. All right. Well, that was great, Robyn. I really appreciate it. You did great.
Thanks so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director. Can't do without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest. Thank you so